You're watching the Commissioner's Report. I'm your host, Kevin Watler, and we are now joined by Deputy County Manager Bill Beasley. He is taking care of the debris management post-Hurricane Irma.
So I'm told, that's right.
You got a big responsibility,
Oh,
sir.
we've not seen anything like this in quite a while, Kevin. You're right.
Wow. Well, a lot of people are asking, how long is it going to take to get the debris picked up?
You know, Kevin, that's a hard question to answer, but I would say that we're already starting to remove debris in various communities now, especially in the southern portions of the county. But overall, I would say you're probably talking several months. I'd like to think that the first pass or the first collection crews that various communities will see will take place within 30 days. And then as the debris gets removed and additional material gets set out, second or third passes may occur in those communities. So it could very well take several months before all the debris is off of the roads. But then, even then, it's going to take some time after that. We have to chip that material and remove that material from the staging sites. So we're in it for the long haul. It's going to take several months. I'd like to think the citizens will understand that and be patient with that. But I think that they're seeing some results now, even as we speak.
Mm-hmm. And what do people do with the debris? We want them to have it separated, correct?
Yeah, it would be nice. Ideally, what we'd like to see is their vegetative debris, their yard waste, the tree trunks, the shrubs, logs, roots, any of those things are vegetative matter. We want to get that first. And if they can keep that segregated at the curbside, that would be ideal. We recognize that some folks will have down fencing material, they will have some other plastics and things that were construction debris related. If that can be kept separate, because we will then collect that on a second or a third pass. We believe 90% of the material we're going to collect is really the yard waste type of debris. So if we can get that first on our first push, that would be ideal. But we recognize there'll be other products that they'll put at the curb, but we don't want them to mix it all together. Then it becomes very difficult to separate as we process that material.
And what if some people say, well, I don't really have a proper public right-of-way? What do we want them to know?
That's a good point. The county's collection efforts will be on public roads as well as private roads. If you live in a private subdivision, we recognize those are private roads, but the county commission, the county manager's office, we have made a commitment to clean all the roads within Polk County, as well as in some of the municipal jurisdictions, and that includes those private roads, private gated subdivisions. It really just, as long as it's not on the roadway so that we don't impede your access or residents' access to and from their property, or a public safety first responder response in some way, as long as you can pile it up in some way off of the edge of an existing road, whether it be a private or public road, we can get to it. But remember, keep it segregated. Keep your C and D, your debris material separate from your vegetative material, separate from your appliances. And that's the message we want to push.
Absolutely. And what if someone says, well, I have a big old tree, a full tree down. Do you need to cut it up, or what would your recommendation be?
Well, the haulers have more capability than the normal yard waste companies that we deal with. So they will be able to lift larger, heavier loads. But if you can break it to smaller pieces, there's no size, but if you can break it down, it just will facilitate you, the resident, getting it from your property to the curb. We can't go on private property into your yard to pick up your material. You got to get it to the side of the road. And for you to do that, you're probably going to have to break it down into something that's more manageable so you can get it to the side of the road. Absolutely.
And I know that the landfill has waived fees for vegetative matter only through October 18th. You want to touch on that as well?
Yes, the board made a decision yesterday to waive the applicable fees for yard waste or vegetative debris only, and only from residential sources. That would really mean if you or I, if we didn't want to wait on the county's trucks to get to your property, and you wanted to be more proactive and bring your material to the landfill, we will waive those fee charges. But it's only for residential sources of vegetative matter, and it is not intended for commercial sources. So we're going to try to self-police that, but yes, the board did waive those fees for approximately 30 days, and I believe the board would review that again, and if they need to extend that based on the responses that we're seeing from the public, they would do that.
Absolutely. And what about regular waste pickup, your weekly waste pickup? Is that back on track now?
We believe it is. Now again, your weekly pickup includes your containerized garbage, your recycling commodities, as well as your yard waste. Now what we're asking folks on the yard waste side, because there's a lot of vegetative matter that gets confused with your normal yard waste, we're saying is that if you want to containerize some of the smaller grass clippings, leaves, those types of things in bags or containers, when the waste hauling company comes by and sees that, they will pick that up. But the large piles of debris, that will be held for the specialized contractors that the county has on board now.
And I believe it's something like if you have, it's like an airline suitcase, 50-pound limit.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, if you put that light waste, vegetative waste, in bags or a container, we ask that it not exceed 50 pounds in limit.
Okay. And who's picking up all the debris? Because it's not your regular service providers.
Correct.
Right now. Who's taking care of that?
The county had contracts pre-existing, so we put them in place for this exact reason. We have actually two contractors. We have a company called Tetra Tech, which is more of an engineering firm that is managing the logistics of where the waste is, the quantities of waste generated, inspecting the loads, and so forth. And then we have a company called Crowder Gulf. I think Crowder Gulf is based out of the New York area, but they have contracts at a national level for this exact thing. Crowder Gulf is using subcontracts to bring in haulers, trucks, specialized trucks from different parts of the country, just here in Florida now, to do exactly what we're asking them to do. That's to remove the waste from the sides of the road. And these two contracts are essentially required by the federal government to ensure that we maximize the amount of reimbursement we will seek from the federal government as part when this is all said and done.
And some people are asking, can I burn my waste?
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is there are no prohibitions. There's no burning bans currently in Polk County. In rural, unincorporated Polk County, that may be an option for some private property owners. There are some common sense approaches that we ask folks to talk about. One, if you're in a municipal limit, you may have some burning restrictions. Even if you're in the unincorporated areas, you may have some setback distance from property lines, you may have some pile sizes, you may have to deal with some permitting issues from the Florida Forestry Services. So there's some common sense approaches to burning should you choose to do that, but that is an option in some cases for some private property owners.
Absolutely, and I believe some of those things would be limited to tree debris and stuff. You wouldn't be able to burn plastics or other toxic material or construction material. Those are always on a list of do not burn, and that the full list of that would be on the Florida Forest Service website. They're the ones that usually govern that sort of stuff. I mean, folks need to also educate themselves on what's legal and what's not legal as well.
Right. Yep. Certainly the Forestry Service does have some good guidelines out there, and we really discourage the burning of anything other than vegetative waste. Plastics, treated material, household items, protrusible waste, those types of things are really not intended for the burning privilege.
Absolutely. And people just also need to be a little courteous. You may have neighbors who may have breathing issues, or you just don't want to stink them out with smoke the whole entire time as well.
And we've already heard some of that, Kevin. That's minimal right now, but again, that's the common sense, a good neighbor approach in terms of wind direction, close proximity to neighbors' homes, those kinds of things. All collectively, there's a way to do that, but you've got to use some good common sense.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Beasley, just to wrap things up, summarize everything. What does the public need to know about the debris management?
Let me just tell the general public is that what we're seeing here in Polk County is something we've not really seen before. In 2004, I'm told, I wasn't here then, but that the devastation and the disaster, the damaging was isolated to pockets in the southern portions of the county. It would appear here that Polk County has been hit in the entire county, from the southern sections all the way north and from the eastern sections all the way to the western sections. And Polk County is like many other counties. You know, our cousins to the south of us, they've been hit harder than we have. DeSoto, Hardy County, some of those counties really got some challenges ahead of them. Be patient. We're getting there. I think we're well up on the curve in terms of activity. We have hauling contracts ongoing now. We have 30 to 40 units in Polk County today. We expect upwards of 60 by the end of this week running through different parts of the county. I want to compliment some of our municipal partners. They have chosen to take the initiative to start removing some of the debris within their corporate limits. We have upwards of 10 sites, specific debris management sites, that are now going to be running in Polk County, where we will stage this material. We will then process the material and remove it from those sites. So collectively, it's been a very spirited partnership with not only the private sector haulers, electric companies, utility companies, the municipalities, the county. Everything seems to be working, I want to say well, but I recognize the frustrations that some will feel when it comes to how quickly we can get to your community. We are working from the southern sections of the county to the north because we believe that the southern sections were hit fairly hard. Our focus at the last couple of days, since early this week, or actually late last week, has been the Bartow, the Fort Meade, the Lake Wales. Those communities were hit pretty hard. So we're moving with trucks and resources from the southern sections to the northern sections. It's going to take time. Be patient with us. In the end, I think there's some things that we will note and put in our inventory that we need to be sensitive to next time when something like this happens again, and it will. But overall, on a personal level, I couldn't be more proud of the men and women, not only on the government sector, but the private sector who stepped forward, and it's been a real partnering effort.
Absolutely. And that's it for this half of the show. We'll be back right after this short break with more from our Emergency Management Division. And of course, remember, you can always visit our county website for the latest update on our information. And as well, like our Facebook page, our social media sites are always being updated as well. We'll be back right after this break.
We just went through a terrible experience here for Polk County, but I can tell you I am very proud of the staff and all the teams that helped coordinate the advance notice, the monitoring, and the recovery efforts. Really proud of this team and how the whole community came together. But what we saw through all these volunteers and all of these employees over these last 2 weeks is really the product of my predecessors and this board providing the training and the staffing and the physical facilities and the assets to respond in this kind of event. And it worked out well to the benefit of our citizens. I know we got some folks that are still suffering, and it's taking longer to get restored services across the county, but I can tell you that the people responsible are doing the best they can in a very difficult situation, and we'll be better prepared for whatever happens next time. And hurricane season goes until November. So we still have to be diligent, still have to watch out for each other, and be ready.
Welcome back to the Commissioner's Report, and we are now joined by some folks from Emergency Management. First, we have Pete McNally. He is the Emergency Management Director, and also we have Paul Womble. He is the Emergency Management Program Manager. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
So, we were recently hit by Hurricane Irma, and the county is really still recovering. It's going to be a while before, the county is 100% back to normal. But, not to scare anyone, but the season is not over yet.
That's true. We still have some storms out there and brewing, and there's always the potential later in the season. We've seen in different years where storms can come up, especially in the Gulf and later in the season. So, yeah, we're not out of the woods yet. People need to be prepared. I know it's tough when you're trying to pick up things and put your life back together right now to think about the impact of maybe another storm coming, but in reality they need to get that chance to get that hurricane survival kit restocked and just get their thoughts back in order of what they would do should something happen. And maybe based upon what just happened, they've got a new plan and maybe try something different that might help them out a little bit better than the last one did.
Absolutely. We've had a very active hurricane season this year. I know some of the forecasters predicted that it would probably be a little elevated, but I mean, we've had some really bad storms already this year.
Yeah, lots of activity, lots of big storms. And we were hitting 3 times in 2004 with a 4th threat that year. So we're still at the peak of the season. And as Pete said, everyone should really monitor the weather, monitor what comes out from the county and from the Weather Service, and be prepared if you have to activate your plan.
Absolutely. And one of the things too is the structures are probably a little weaker in some areas because we went through, pretty bad storm here in Polk County. What should people be doing to prepare their homes in case we have another one hit?
I think the most important thing is just to go over your house to take a look at, what happened. If anything did happen to it, look at the walls, look at the roof if you can, some of the connectors up there. If you can get inside, look to see if there's been any kind of a structural damage along the trusses inside. That's hard to do, but they can maybe get a chance to do that. Take a look around your yard. Maybe some things like your fence or something might not have been knocked down during the event, but it may be weakened, as you mentioned. So take a look at that and try to strengthen those kind of things, just in case something happens again, because those are the things that the wind are going to knock over. And once again, some limbs may be broken or in places where they could do damage this time because of what happened in Irma. So again, take a look at those and try to trim those back.
Absolutely. And talking about hurricane kits, we know a lot of people flooded the stores right before the storm. No one could find water and no one could find gas. A lot of the food items were all gone. But some of these items are things that you could actually have in your kits from now before a storm hits. Let's talk on that a little bit, Paul.
Yeah, just a few things. I mean, power outages, everyone experienced that from a day or two to folks that were without power for over a week, maybe without water. So being able to have food for your family that you can prepare safely without electricity, without heat. So canned items, bread, all those things flew off the shelves. And when you shop now or next year when you're getting ready for the 2018 hurricane season, start in the spring, add a few extra canned items here and there. But the important thing now, again, if we have another storm, commodities are still low, so folks should be prepared. But power outages is a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even something like water, I know, again, not everything's fully back to normal yet, but you could still go to the store, maybe buy a case, this week, and maybe in a couple of weeks buy another case, just so you start accumulating some of those things at home. And even sandbags as well. I mean, the county, we couldn't keep the sandbag sites at the station stocked with enough sand and sandbags because we had so many people coming and getting it. But I know some of the stations have it replenished, I believe.
They're doing the best they can. Once again, you have to remember this is a particularly unusual year where you have such a major disaster occurred in Texas with Hurricane Harvey just 2 weeks before Irma came in. So a lot of the resources were focused on helping the folks in Texas, and now they had to be either redeployed or try to reassigned or whatever to help the folks in, or there just weren't enough bodies, in some cases personnel-wise, to take the place of those people who may be giving aid or assistance in our case here in Florida because they're on duty in Texas. So unusual situation where a lot of those potential both human and physical resources were deployed or used up because of a disaster that occurred just 2 weeks before.
Absolutely. And one of the things you touched on, Paul, was generators, trying to probably get them sourced and such. Safety when using those things is critical. We had a fatality from Irma due to the use of generators. Let's talk on what people should, where people should have generators, because it's a very important topic.
Yeah, absolutely not inside your house. Generators emit gas, as we saw, that's odorless. You can't see it, and unfortunately it did cause a fatality. So outside, the generator needs to be outside in a well-ventilated area, not even on a screened patio. It should be outside, away from where people are going to be, certainly not inside the house.
Absolutely, and I know on the county's website, Facebook pages, even on the Twitter feed, we've posted a lot of tips that people can have. The user manual also has a lot of good safety tips that people should look at, because those things are very critical, because again, we don't want to lose any lives because someone just wants a little bit of, someone wants electricity after a storm. And food safety is another topic that we probably should highlight.
Sure, a lot of people, when you lose the power to your refrigerator, and then you've got a whole refrigerator full of food. And I remember back in 2004, I think I lost 3 refrigerators worth of food because of that situation. So you want to make sure that when you go back and try to, now that you get power back, is the food in the refrigerator still good? The best idea, I think, is just to throw anything out of that nature and go out and restock, replenish. Getting back to generator, it reminds me of some other issues in post-disaster events where most of our injuries come from, and people trying to recover in an immediate post-impact environment, things they've never done before. They never used a generator, they've never used a chainsaw, they've never gone up in their roof in times like this. So they put themselves in extreme situations, and that's where a lot of the injuries and unfortunately a lot of the deaths occur in those things, that people are trying to help their property out, trying to help themselves out with whatever the activity there is they're trying to do, generator, a chainsaw, whatever, and they've never done it before. So a lot of injuries can occur in situations like that. So people just need to take the time. And again, it's also going to be real hot because the storm has gone through, taking all the water and all the cool weather. All you're going to get is heat, and you're going to get a lot of sunshine during those times because the good weather is going to be there because all the bad weather has gone out with the storm. So it's another time they need to be hydrated throughout while they're doing things, working outside, but also be careful what they're doing.
Absolutely, and one of those things is too, you wear gloves when you're handling all of the debris, whether it's tree branches or construction material that may have fallen off your house. Safety is very, very important to have right after a storm.
Definitely.
And in terms of how we could probably improve, because every time we have an event, we could always do things better. We always find things where not probably done the way it probably should have. One of the things that we could touch on is people showed up to the wrong shelters. What should they be doing to make sure that we're going to the correct shelter?
The most important thing is that they try to listen or call into some of the numbers that we give them for information, or listen to our media partners, or go on other media outlets, social media or with the web or some of the list, and give the official list of where the shelters are. We print a shelter map every year, which is our primary preparation tool for the county. One of the things it has on there is a list of our 43 available shelter sites, but also in a very large box on the front that has gone from very small print to almost covering half of a quarter section panel in front of that map. It says, do not proceed to a shelter unless you know it's up and operating. And for that reason, people may have a school that's right across the street from them that's listed as a shelter, but it's not going to be open. We open shelters based upon their size, their availability, what they can be used best for, how many people can be there, the best use of the building itself. So we try to make sure when we pick a shelter that it is best for most people. We could use those small shelters for other operations. That's why they're on the list. But again, we really implore people to make sure they check the list that's available, because we open those shelters in conjunction with the school board and the Red Cross and ourselves for a purpose. We make sure they will fit the need that we have for the community.
And Paul, anything, I know you were very active. We all worked a whole lot of hours at the Emergency Operations Center. What are some areas you think we could, the public and stuff could also improve in?
Well, the communications, we saw a significant amount of telephone calls for our special needs program, which is a program where people can pre-register if they're power dependent, oxygen dependent, the power dependent, some type of medical device or medical condition where they have a piece of equipment that they need to still have emergency power on when the power outage happens. So we had an unprecedented amount of phone calls for people that were not registered. So we would encourage folks to pre-register, so that way they don't have to wait until the last minute. Should be part of their disaster plan for themselves or their family. So that's one thing. The other thing was to be able to monitor a website, social media, and even normal radio. We get so used to our technology, and when those systems are overloaded, to have backup capability, cell phones could go out. I didn't hear a lot of that in this storm, but having multiple ways to receive information both before, during, and after a storm is very important.
Absolutely. And after a storm, of course, we have agencies coming in to help the county. Let's touch on them briefly.
Sure. One of the things that we have right now opening up, and will be open up for a while, is this Operation Blue Roof, which is a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers program where they come in and help sign people up in conventional homes to help put blue roofs on their property. They have contractors that do that, and they go out, and these men and women are trained to do it. They can do it safely. Much more, again, it gets back to what I talked about earlier. You don't want to be going up and doing that in your own roof, maybe if you've never done that before. These people are professionals at doing this, so they're here to do that. There are other contracts that we have in place for debris management. Just had just before our segment, I believe, was talked about debris, and that was, it's critical to get that material up off the ground and taken care of, get out of people's way and so forth. So that's a contract that we have ongoing that we negotiate every 4 or 5 years. So that company is on standby, on alert, so if we need them, they step right in and pick things up. So that's very important that we have those kind of things. So there are those kinds of programs are out there that we are either ready to go with once the storm happens, or ready to fall in on us if we need that assistance from the federal government for those programs.
And we also have the FEMA app, or you could contact FEMA through their website for some support as well.
Right, and that'll take some time to get spun up after a storm, because they have to determine where they need to go, what their resources are, and how they can best support that. I'm talking FEMA and their capabilities. But once they get that sorted out with the damages in the state or whatever happens to be, they can then come in and assist our citizens at that point too.
Yep, and the folks got to also realize Polk County was not the only county that was hit.
Absolutely.
For the federal government to come in to provide assistance.
Right,
as
and
well.
again, you talk about Harvey impacting Texas, where they still need assistance over there as well. So now you've limited the resources at least at half, and since the rest of the state has been damaged as well, the resources are going to be spread very thin across the state.
Absolutely. Paul, as we wrap things up, what are your final comments?
Yeah, back on the FEMA assistance, people should call their insurance companies first, and then call FEMA next. So if you have insurance for your house, your property, that has an impact on FEMA assistance. And as Pete mentioned, the FEMA assistance is primarily financial type programs, and there is an application process. If you're not registered with FEMA, that's the first step. The other thing is, just want to say there were a lot of county staff, city staff, all of our partners, volunteer nonprofit agencies that really came together in the Emergency Operations Center before, during, and even now after this hurricane, and we worked very well together. We had lots of support from our senior county staff, and our elected Board of County Commissioners were in the EOC, have supported us, and we just want to thank them. We appreciate that. And again, we encourage everyone, it's still hurricane season, and it'll be hurricane season every year, so take a few minutes now and each year to develop your hurricane plan based on what you learned here and this year, to hopefully take care of your families and your businesses in the future.
And Pete, any final remarks from you?
Really echo what Paul said as far as preparation. It's really important to stay prepared throughout the season, because as we saw in past years, storms can come again, or not the same storm obviously, but different storms can come again during that same season. So we need to remain prepared and vigilant on what's going on, and again echo all the thanks to our partners who came really to help out with us. Paul's got a great saying that we don't do a lot of things in emergency management, but we kind of run the show. We lead the band, so to speak, and make sure it runs properly. And all those band members have their own specific expertise in certain areas that we depend upon. And if they can't do their jobs, then the job's not going to get done by us. So by them stepping up and doing things so well and so forthrightly with what they need to do, it really makes our job a lot easier in running that band, so to speak.
Okay, and with that, that's it for this show. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Just want to let everyone know that we've come through the other side of Hurricane Irma. We're all safe. We're getting power restored. Water service is basically back to everyone who needed it with their own private lift stations. So we're on the recovery side, and the recovery side now means debris removal for the most part. We've got plenty of trucks coming in. We're opening up sites every day for disposal sites. We're going to work very hard to get the properties cleaned up in both inside the municipalities and outside. The cities and counties are working very well together, and I just want to assure you that the team that helped us get through this hurricane here in Polk County is second to none. Our first responders got an A+, and everyone on the staff that pitched in at the EOC, they worked tirelessly for you and for me and for all of us, and their effort should not go unnoticed. As they were there working, doing their 12-hour shifts, their families were home cleaning up debris, and their minds were in a number of different places. So I just want to thank everyone at the county for all they did and keeping us safe and keeping us informed. It was a big job. It's a big county. We've got a lot of land debris to clear up, and I just urge your patience. If you have issues, please let us know, and we'll do the best to take care of your issue. Thank you very much.